Hi everyone, it's good to see you here today. I'm not here in person, but I'm doing the best I can do. And I'm thinking about you, I'm taking care of you. Our lesson is a continuation of last week, which was finding freedom from oppression. This week is about the progression of oppression in our thoughts. And it's about how our thoughts will lead us to success, or they will lead us to wandering in the wilderness. And I was watching a video by John Maxwell, one of my coaches, and I'm going to link that to my presentation here because I found it so powerful. And he was telling the story about how the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness, and I don't want for you or me to wander in the wilderness. So of course, you know from the past, my number one belief is that we find freedom through taking personal responsibility. When we recognize that there's things coming out of my heart that aren't the way they should be. Where do they come from? And that's what we're going to explore today. I think we need to realize that our mind is the door to our heart. And one of the verses that gives credence to that thought is 2 Corinthians 10:5. It says, take every thought. And that means our opinions and the opinions of others into captivity to the obedience of Christ. Christ, the Spirit of Christ, is the spirit of restoration. He wants to restore back to us what's been taken away. And that's what we want. We want to be restored. We want to be whole. We want to have a clear and a sound mind. And so sometimes our own opinions will keep us in the survival paradigm because we can't let go. It has to be the way that I believe it has to be. Or sometimes the opinions of others. They manipulate or intimidate us, and we find ourselves feeling fearful. We find ourselves having suspicion. We find ourselves having distrust as we listen to those opinions of others. So those need to be taken into captivity to the obedience of Christ and restoration. So the verse that comes to mind when I say that our mind is the door to our heart is Proverbs 4:23. It says, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues or the events of life. When we keep our heart, then it promotes a different life. If you have a heart that's bad, you're going to give what you have. If you have a heart that's good, you're going to give from that. You're going to give from the good. Only you can decide what's in your heart. Only I can decide what's in my heart. Only I can say, that was coming out of my heart. It's not pure. It's not restorative. And God, please take that out of my heart. And so God miraculously does that for us. All we have to do is admit when we've done wrong and take responsibility and say, God, remove that from my life, and He will help us to do that. Sometimes instantaneously, sometimes it's a process. But both ways, it begins to come out of our heart. So that's Proverbs 4:23. Somebody could read that. And also there is another verse in Philippians 4:8. It said, whatsoever things are true. Number 1 is true. Number 2 is honest. Number 3 is just, pure, lovely, of good report. Think on these things. If they're not true, and if they're not honest, cast them out of your mind. It's going to promote a heart that's not true and honest. You're going to be in the lower negative zone, energy zone. We know that living a lie or telling a lie keeps us down here. But when we're just honest, we're just who we are. We're authentic. We are the person that God created us to be because we have nothing to hide. And when people accuse us, it's like, I don't know where you got that idea because that's not who I am. And sometimes people accuse us of things that can't really be proven. They say, well, you have a spirit. You have a lying spirit, or you have a greedy spirit, and it's coming from their mind. But they don't accuse you of things that you can prove. They don't accuse you of saying, well, you've robbed a bank. No, I can prove I haven't robbed a bank. It's always these elusive things that people accuse you of. and it can cause fear, distrust, confusion, and unhappiness in our lives. And so when we keep our heart with all diligence and we think about the things that are true and honest and the rest, we can have a heart that's pure before God. And even if we make a mistake, we can say, God, I made a mistake. Please forgive me of that one. And he will be happy to do that. Now, the mindset that many people have is, well, there's 4 different kinds of mindsets. There's a positive mindset where people they see things better than they are. There's the negative mindset where they don't see things realistically. They're not true and honest. They're worse than there are. They're a fixed mindset where people say, well, there's some good and some bad. There's nothing we can do about it. And there's the growth mindset where you see that in order for me to grow, I'm going to have to go out. I think it's Proverbs 4:3 says, Abraham believed God and God counted him as righteous. The way we know that his belief was valid is because he went out not knowing where he was going to go. Now, let me tell you an interesting fact. Religious people love certainty. They love absolutes. They love laws. The Pharisees had 613 laws. They couldn't even keep them all, but they were constantly accusing and condemning other people because they weren't keeping the laws, or they were afraid they weren't keeping the laws. A spiritual person has freedom. He can go here, he can go here, he can question this, he can question that, and he has freedom because he's not tied to his own opinion. He's not tied to the opinion of others. He is searching for truth. He is searching for what's honest. He is searching, and this is a journey. Because once you think I have truth, you're no longer searching, you're defending. You're defending your truth. And religious people love to defend their truth. They love to theorize and give you Bible verses and opinions that prove that what I know is right. And it could be right for them, but it might not be right for you because your journey is slightly different. And so we need to let go of those strong opinions and find the place that God has for us. So Romans 12:2 said, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformation takes time. Romans 12:2, somebody can read that. But when we recognize that we're searching for truth, which is Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and we are allowing Jesus into our heart and life, he begins to transform us by the renewing of our mind. So important. Another thing that I wanted to promote here before we watch this movie from John Maxwell was that living in past trauma can lead us to paranoia. Paranoia is delusions. It's not real. It's a delusion of grandeur. I'm better than I am. Or it can be excessive fear, suspicion, or distrust. And so when we find ourselves living in a delusion, now that doesn't mean, paranoia doesn't mean that you're hallucinating. It just means that you're not completely seeing things exactly as they are. You have a lot of fear, you have distrust, you have suspicion, you begin to see other people and you say, I think that this is what they're doing, but it's because of your past trauma. And it can actually become a mental illness. It can be a mindset that's fixed that these people are out to get me because maybe there was someone back there who was out to get you. Or these life events that make us have our core beliefs. We need to let some of those go. Let them be in our past and move forward. Don't live in the past. And so this video by John Maxwell is called Feed Your Faith. And it is very interesting and very funny. And I hope you enjoy it as much